Michael Kuzer here again to share my delight in learning a tiny bit about the secrets of nature and the cosmos. Thank you for coming. We left off last time talking about number and how intricately it meshes with reality, like cogwheels made of eyelashes. Number. What is that? Is number the same as mathematics? No. As they whispered hints of their nature to me, eventually I came to think of numbers as being alive, but not like cuddly little hedgehogs. Numbers seem more like friendly viruses, which can pass on genetic material but lack cell structures. Organisms at the edge of life, one researcher said of viruses, like the green bacteriophages shown here attacking a bacterium. I had to drop my own cell structure to get along with them, to forget what I thought I knew about math, to stop talking and listen. Carl Jung wrote a friend about synchronicity and said, "In this connection, I always come upon the enigma of the natural number. I have a distinct feeling that number is a key to the mystery, since it is just as much discovered as invented." William Blake drew God using a pair of golden compasses. Maybe the Creator needed a tape measure to make the sun 400 times larger than the moon, and to set the sun about that much farther from Earth, so that the two great lights occupy the same amount of space in the sky day and night. Here, the International Space Station transits the Sun at roughly 5 miles per second during a partial solar eclipse on August 21st, 2017. What does all this have to do with Earth measure? Everything. All is connected, and the whole works are much better taken care of than people imagine. Photographed by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory, this group of galaxies has been nicknamed the Cheshire Cat because of its resemblance to a smiling feline. Sorry, wrong picture. Some of the cat-like features are actually distant galaxies whose light has been stretched and bent by the large amounts of mass contained in foreground galaxies, an effect called gravitational lensing. I heard that the ancient system of measuring feet and miles and nautical miles is based on the behavior of number itself. That simple statement pulled me into the ancient mysteries. Number behavior reveals itself through fractions. No, not fractions. Okay, forget fractions for a while. There's a dance between 5 and 8 in nature, two Fibonacci numbers, illustrated in everything from tiny flowers to the orbit of Venus, though you'd never guess it from looking at Venus and the Earth side by side. Venus makes this five-petaled pattern over a period of 8 years, as seen from Earth. What are the odds? Is this by design, or is it a random phenomenon? A scrap of corn husk that I found lying on my office floor looks like a female dancer striking a pose. What are the odds? 25 divided by 8 gives you 3.125, the minimum value for pi used in ancient Rome. That's 5 squared divided by 8, or 5 to the fifth power divided by 1,000. Divide numbers from the canon by 10, 100, 1,000, or 10,000. Pay no attention to that floating decimal point. The different numbers are like finger holes on a recorder. They change the tone, but you're still playing the same instrument. Now here's some conceptual food for thought. The sun is 400 times larger than the moon, but not always exactly 400 times farther from Earth. When the distance is less, an eclipse becomes an annular eclipse, and you see a ring of fire. The moon wanders about 30,000 miles between extreme close-up perigee and apogee. There is a beautiful number plate to the scheme, again 5 and 8. The astronomical unit of old, or distance to the sun, the AU, is 81 million nautical miles. The average lunar distance is 12 to the fourth power nautical miles, times 10. Divide moon distance into the AU to get the ratio, which is not 400. What you get is 390.625. Or you can look at it as 5 to the 8th power divided by 1,000. Or you can take that familiar old 5 times 5 thing and divide it by 8. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Steven Weinberg got close to this AU moon distance ratio when he said that the angle between the lines of sight to the sun and to the half-full moon makes the sun 390 times farther away from the Earth than the moon. So close to the embroidery, but just shy of seeing the stitches. Mind you, this use of the number 390.625 represents a proportion, as in so much oil in so much water, and works as such with either statute or nautical miles. But if you multiply that ratio by the number of arc seconds in a circle, you get Earth's orbit around the Sun in nautical miles. Here we have an abstract proportion number also serving as a concrete physical length. In similar fashion, if you multiply the average moon distance in nautical miles by minimum tau, 6.25, you get 1 nautical mile for every arcsecond of its orbit around the Earth. What are the odds? Is it true that we co-create reality with the cosmos? Can I manifest a measurement standard with my mind? While wandering the streets of Rome, I stopped in the Basilica of St. Augustine and happened to read a church news pamphlet. It held a message from Pope John Paul II calling on the faithful to be a credible and coherent witness, which struck me as a perfect credo for a reporter or a person returning from their hero's journey. I was not a devout Catholic, but I took the message to heart. Driving into Boston before dawn one day, I noticed a sliver of light above the road, the waning old moon rising in a clear sky, earthshine visible even in traffic on the Massachusetts Turnpike. The moon is democracy in orbit, accessible to all. Even so, I can only see half the moon and a tiny patch of earth. The world is just too big to take in. How can any one person see it all? Over time, I became attracted to people who could see part of reality and describe it well, to writers like Oliver Sacks, Lauren Isley, and John McPhee. Did I want to find the secret of life? As naturalist Isley wrote, I am sure now that life is not what it is purported to be, and that nature, in the canny words of a Scotch theologue, is not as natural as it looks. Speaking of Scotsmen, John Muir is a kindred spirit. His descriptions of the High Sierra take me up into the mountains with him. Lacking the wiry climber's fitness, I am lucky to have my number contemplations to go to, a portable Yosemite to climb whenever the fancy strikes. I am ready to cleanse my spirit with number any time. In Rome's Basilica of Santa Maria of the Angels and Martyrs, I saw this beautiful meridian line commissioned by Pope Clement XI to control the precision of the new Gregorian calendar. At the time, I could admire the artistry of the execution better than grasp the underlying scientific methodology. I would rather walk outside that church and marvel at the bronze naiads in the Piazza della Repubblica, a monumental fountain that I studied for 101 hours. The mysterious majesty of the Egyptian obelisks in Rome also pulled me under their spell. The largest obelisk ever made lay buried in the mud of Circus Maximus for centuries before Pope Sixtus V asked his architect, Domenico Fontana, to rescue it, same as he moved one to the center of St. Peter's Square. Despite my ignorance or temporary feeble-mindedness, invisible rays of science must have passed through the pinhole of my mind's eye. Author and teacher Joanna Macy said that a chance reading of a poem one day shed a new light on the patchwork her life had become. Marriage, motherhood, abandoned government career, assortment of jobs, studies in art and language. Perhaps, after all, some unknowable center held me in orbit, she said. God has to undo our illusions secretly, as it were, when we are not watching and not in perfect control, say the mystics. That is why the best word for God is actually mystery. We move forward in ways that we do not even understand, and through the quiet workings of time and grace. So says Franciscan friar Richard Rohr. The ancient world also gripped me, from Homer's Iliad and Odyssey to Archimedes and his Stomachian puzzle, so called because trying to solve it makes your stomach turn, to the Pantheon in Rome. No building ever sparked my imagination like the Pantheon. Thank God the Italians made it a church, which means admission is free. The oculus mesmerized me. Centuries of Italian art and architecture poured into me, and for a time I wanted to share with the world the saving grace of art. For example, in a remote part of Umbria sits the Abbey of San Pietro in Valle, which has some 8th century Lombard friezes and reliefs. One altar is a mishmash of east and west, with the seed of life from sacred geometry, a kundalini-like energy wave or snake design, a Celtic cross, and a motif reminiscent of ancient Egypt and Persia with 2 peacocks flanking a ceremonial cup. What does an old altar in a remote valley in Italy have to do with earth-shaping number, with my personal dawning to a new and ancient reality? All the artworks and buildings made me new, redoubling my psychic energies for the game of life. The doubling cube of fate helped balance my neuropsychological deficits. People examining the various foot measures in Europe quickly realized that the Greek is 25 to 24 of the Roman foot, or the 24th part greater, like adding an extra hour to the day. The same ratio holds between the English and the Greek foot. 25 divided by 24 gives you the decimal value. We can see the 24th part phenomenon through the number 12. For example, 12 to the 4th power increased by its 24th part equals Earth mean circumference in nautical miles. It's all tied together, which is why we call one nautical mile a knot. The pattern holds true deep into the weave, as in 1.2 divided by that fraction, 25/24, gives you 1.152. One knot equals 1.152 statute miles. Divide that number again, and you get 1/10,000th of a sun arcsecond in feet. Go the other way and you reach into time again. Earth mean circumference in statute miles, if increased by its 24th part, represents time, as in the number of years it takes our planet to complete a precession cycle. This is the structure of the cosmos. Recall that Earth mean circumference in statute miles equals 12 to the 5th power divided by 10. Well, if you divide it by 2524 instead, you get the average distance to the moon in statute miles. And if you convert that to nautical miles, we're back at 12 to the 4th power, only multiplied by 10. This important part of the cosmic structure seems straightforward, but it's easy to miss. The word theory shares roots with theater, as both have to do with watching and observing. Physicists in the past few years have expanded the classic double-slit experiment to a triple-slit one. Not only can one light particle be in two places at the same time, but it can curve in space-time and do it again. There ought to be a law. For more on how some of the secrets of the universe reveal themselves in patterns, tune in to part 3 of the thrilling series Revealed Science, Proof of God, or if you prefer, How Number Shapes Reality. Thank you.